There we go. Now we're recording. All right, so it looks like most folks know enough to be dangerous. That's good. So I'll talk a little bit about North State Together then in the beginning. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with the presentation. Share the results so everybody can see. As I said, most of you know a little bit, so that's good. But I'll go ahead and start the presentation. Stop sharing this. Get rid of this. Oops. Try this again. All right, can everybody see that? Good. All right. Get my pointer up here. All right, so as I said, this is a repeat of a session that was done for the Rural Summit for Partners for Rural Impact. And so today we're going to talk about what is North State Together for a few minutes, since most folks landed in the middle there. Why did we create this project and how scary data is? And then we'll do a live demo. And I always cross my fingers when I'm doing a live demo because it's live and hopefully it works the way it's supposed to. And then I'll talk about some of the things I learned along the way and what our next steps are. And then we'll have plenty of time at the end for questions. If I'm going too fast, just let me know. If you have questions somewhere along the line, I can't see the chat, but I think Jamie's going to monitor it for me and she can jump in and let me know. So just throw something in the chat if you need to, and I'll pause along the way in a couple of spots to catch up if need be. So a little bit about North State Together. We're a regional network, and we have 10 counties that we provide backbone services to and support in various cradle to career initiatives. We use a collective impact model as our regional framework, and then each county brings together different partners, and you can see from the graphic there that we kind of sit in the middle, and then each of our counties around the outer ring, and we provide backbone services, convening services, things like that to them, and just kind of come alongside and help support their work. We cover 10 counties in Northern California. We are over 31,000 square miles. And I'm sure most of you have heard this statistic before, but we cover 19% of California's geography, but we account for less than 1.6% of the state's population. So that's pretty huge. We're a pretty vast area. People in Kentucky, especially that hadn't been to California, were surprised at how big of an area we have. And we're impressed with the work that we're able to do there or here. So why did I create the project? The answer is really simple. I wanted to. That's part of it. I say that facetiously. I really did want to kind of hone my skills a little bit in creating the maps, and so this was a good starting place. But in all seriousness, I was approached by others to do some work of this, and they wanted to charge us for it, and I felt it was a little exorbitant. Also, too, what they were wanting to charge us for was a static PDF document. It wasn't an interactive map. And so that's really what I was after. And so I decided to see if I could do the US Census data myself. Like I said, I wanted to create a visual view of data across the region. And I wanted to create the framework to be able to expand this data to what was useful to the 10 counties within our region. So that's why we're kind of doing this presentation today, is for everybody to take a look at it. And then we will kind of have conversations later on about how we can expand it, what needs to be added. So the data is messy, and I use three main sources for this project. The first one, the California Department of Education data. So I use the CAASPP data, or the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress. This is where we measure third grade literacy and eighth grade math, among other things, but those are the two things that we concentrate, or that I concentrated on during this data visualization. And then I also use the ACGR adjusted cohort graduation rate and outcome data, to do some of the graduation rates from high school and the A to G completion for high school. Use the US Census American Community Survey data. I think we all know what that is. That's that survey they do every few years, and some folks answer it, some folks don't. There's lots there. It was messy, and I'll spend some time on that later on. And then the last one is the National Center for Education Statistics. They have the education demographic and geographic estimates, or their EDGE data, and they've combined that with some ACS data, and the EDGE data is where they're providing the mapping piece of it. So they've got all of the geocodes and things like that already done for us. So I didn't have to reinvent the wheel. Before starting this project, I had not heard of this. So this was a big deal for me. I thought I was going to have to create maps from scratch and do geocodes and things like that, but they've already done all that legwork. So finding that was a big boon for me. So California Department of Education data. We started with the CAASPP data. This is gathered using the Smarter Balanced Summative Assessments for ELA and mathematics. It's done once a year. There's some gaps there around the COVID years because the state was not providing data, or they weren't requiring it, things like that. So there are some gaps there. So hopefully going forward after COVID, we'll start seeing that data more consistently. Oops. And then I used the 4-year adjusted cohort graduation rate data. These are reported each year by high schools after their graduation. Census data. I use the American Community Survey data. This is done by the United States Census, and I think we all know what that is. And this was the most difficult and overwhelming part of the project, and you'll see why shortly, until I figured it out. So I'm going to start with the census data. It was the hardest one to do, but data.census.gov, and if anybody's a data freak and wants to really dive into some good data, and some pretty good data sets that you can download, this is a good place to start at. And at first, it was very overwhelming. There's lots of tables, lots of selections, lots of filters, all those kinds of things. And you just need to take some time looking at it and kind of figuring out what it is that you want. So once you get there, you can click on the Explore Tables, and that will bring you to this area, which is where you start defining your filters. What's your geography? So I wanted down to the census tract level. So what I was looking for was neighborhood level data for each of our counties. So I downloaded census tract data for each of the counties in our area. You'll notice in this that I've included the coastal counties. Part of that is because we are currently working on a project with them, and have partnered with them through the Tehama County Office of Ed. And so I included their information on my map as well. So I selected my track, and then I selected the topic I wanted to look at. For this project, I started with income and poverty. And so then I clicked on that. And what came up was at least 1,000 different tables. The most important ones, or the most common ones, are usually listed towards the top. I discovered that early on. And so I didn't have to pour through all of the tables. But you select your table, and then you select over on, then it pops up on this right-hand side, some data about that table, and it's basically a summary of that. And then what you can do is you can download the table as a CSV. This downloads these data points by census tract, because that's what I asked for. So there's a row for every census tract for every one of these data points. So what you get is a meta file, metadata file, which is what tells you what each of the columns are and what those columns mean. So you can see that they start with the geo ID, which is the geography ID, the name of the area, and then they start with their columns. Hundreds and hundreds of columns in some of these tables. So they start at the top with population for whom poverty status is determined, and then they start filtering that down lower and lower and disaggregating it further and further. And they have both a margin of error or a margin of error and a data piece. I didn't really use the margin of error piece because I didn't really care. I wanted the data, just the data point itself. So a lot of the columns I filtered out eventually. And then your data table looks like this. You can see that you've got the geo ID, you've got the geographic name, and then it's got the data for each of those columns. Then I went to the edge data, and this is where I got the actual latitude, longitude, shape data for the different census tracts, things like that. And their site looks different than US Census, but it performs almost the same way. You start with your geography, selecting the geography that you're looking for, your population, and then the table that you're after. And the resulting download is a zip file that contains the two main files. Again, they don't call theirs a metadata file, they call it a records layout file. Same thing, it tells you what the columns are. And then the data file itself, which is a pipe delimited file instead of a CSV, works the same way though. You've got all your columns and data in there. I'm a big proponent of Tableau. I've used Tableau for a long time. This is a visual of Tableau prep and how I joined all the files together. So this is our Edge school data file. So this has all of the geo IDs, the latitudes, longitudes, shape files, all of that for the actual mapping piece of it. The GRF files, both of these came from Edge. These are some US Census data. I wound up not using these in this map. I probably will later on as I add to it, but I wound up not using these, but they do provide some basic US Census ACS data. Down here is the ACS data. One of these is for, I did poverty, and then I think the other one was income. I'm not quite sure, I forget now, but we'll find out here shortly. And then this PVS data is the, brings in some geospatial data to go with the ACS data. And then I joined all that together and produced an output file that then was used in Tableau. Each original file contains a geo ID. This can be used as the key, and that's how I joined them all together. The geo ID is unique across each geographic area. So Tableau was used to create the maps. Once I did all the joining and brought the pieces together and produced a data file, data extract with all of the information I needed, then I went ahead and used Tableau to create the map. And I'm going to pause here before we go to the live the live demo and see if anybody has any questions before I go any further.
I just have a question, James. Is this on the North State Together website, or where would we access this?
It is, and I will show you that.
Cool. I'm excited.
Okay.
Drum roll.
All right. Anyone else? All right, I'm gonna stop sharing this and I'm going to go to the live demo, crossing my fingers. All right, so can everybody see this? Looks like it. Okay. So this is the North State Together website. You can get to it by northstatetogether.org, just going to that site. And then up here at the top is regional data. Let me get my pointer back up here. And maybe it doesn't work. Okay. So up here at the top, regional data, hover over it, and then down here towards the bottom is regional data maps. And that's where we're at on this page. So this first map that you're seeing is the CAASPP data. So this is our 3rd grade and 8th grade English and math information. I provided some filters on the side over here, so you can filter it down to your county, you can filter it down to your district, you can even select whether you want the English data or, excuse me, or the math data. And then we normally focus on 3rd grade for English and 8th grade for math, but it is done in all years, in all grades. So I went ahead and provided a filter so you could look at other grades if you wanted to as well. Test years, I've included the last 3 test years. So you can, what's showing right now is 2023. And then down here, this is the percent of students that either met or exceeded the standard for this test. You can move this. So what you're seeing, I guess I should slow down a little bit. Sorry about that. What you're seeing on the map, the lighter the shaded area, the smaller the percentage of students that met or exceeded the standard. The darker the shaded area, the higher number of students met or exceeded the standard. If you hover over these areas, you'll see that it brings up some trend data. You'll notice that not everybody has 2021. That is the COVID year that some folks didn't report. As you get into some areas, though, like up here in Mountain Valley Unified, it does show 2021. So some folks reported it, some folks didn't, wasn't required by the state during 2021. So there is some missing data there. Each of these areas represents a school district. So up here is Del Norte Unified. Right here, we've got Scott Valley, we've got Butte Valley, Gateway, and so on. The triangles, same thing, just represent where the district's seat is, so to speak. And it shows the same data. However, if you click on either one of these, and this was kind of the fun part of finding the edge data. If I click on this for Evergreen Union, Edge has already done a nice job of putting together these dashboards that show American Community Survey data for their district. So what the total population is, what the median household income is, how many households sit within their district, what their race ethnicity breakdown is, and so on. Some data are not available, families with food stamps. It just depends on the district and whether the ACS has that for that district area or not. But this was kind of the cool part to find. I didn't have to reinvent the wheel when it came to the dashboards themselves to find just standard data. We can click back off of that. You can also, we can filter down, like I said, by county. So if I only wanted to see, let's do Tehama County just for fun. So there's Tehama County, and there's our districts within Tehama County: Los Molinos, Reeds Creek, Evergreen. I could narrow down to the district if I wanted to. I'm going to look at mathematics, see how it changes, and then our percent slider changes. And I want to look at 8th grade. Again, the colors change because the data is changing and the percent slider changes. So with this percent slider, you could also, if you really wanted to see the students or the districts that were below 25% and below. Slide that slider down, and there you go. You can see just those districts that are 25% and below. So quick overview of that one. Next one is our high school A to G map. So we'll click on the little orange button up here at the top. Same thing. It works the same exact way. I've got a county filter. I've got a district filter. I have an academic year that you can select, and then the A to G rate percentage slider. So again, lighter the color, the lower the percentage, darker the color, the higher the percentage of A to G rate. If you hover over it, this will show you their A to G rates for the last 3 years. And then up towards the top, you'll see graduation rate. That's the graduation rate for the school. So you can see that 91% of the students graduated from high school, but only 24% met the A to G rate, A to G requirements. This one works the same way as the CAASPP one. So now we'll move on to the US Census data map. This one's the fun one. And there we go. So what's showing right now are the percent of families below poverty. I have 3 metrics here: households with 1 or more computing devices, and then households with broadband. I included those because broadband is a big deal within our area, and we're really wanting to see where things are at. The unfortunate part about broadband is that we rely on FCC data, which is self-reported data currently. I could spend hours talking about how flawed that is, but I won't. So we'll just focus on the ACS data here and what the US Census has for each of our areas. So, but I'm going to focus on below poverty. And then we can filter it by county again if we need to. And then we can filter it by district. So I'm going to do, let's do Butte County. So I've got it filtered down to Butte County. This is the percent of families below poverty, and this is the census tract level. So if I zoom in, let's select a district. Let's do Chico Unified School District. So here's Chico Unified. This whole area is Chico Unified School District, but each of these different areas are the census tracts or the neighborhoods, however you want to define that yourself. So if I hover over this, it's got families below poverty is 2% in this area of that district. But up here in this area of the district, they've got 15% of the families below poverty. You can zoom in on the map and go even tighter. So here we have even some smaller, this area here, 25% below poverty. But as you get out a little further from the center of Chico, the poverty level starts to go down. So in a nutshell, that is how this works. I'm going to clear out these filters. Live demo. So we can zoom back out to the whole map. And then if we select a different one, let me get back to the whole area here. There we go. We select a different one, like let's do households with broadband. You'll notice the map changes again. And things get a little different. Again, 62% to 100%, down to the neighborhood level, depending on how you want to filter it, and so on and so forth. So that's the live demo. Any questions before I move off the live demo? Hearing none, I will move on. So I'm going to go back to my presentation here. So, why is it not moving? There. Lessons learned. So data is not as scary as I once thought. It just took some time to get there. So I poured through the US Census data. I would not consider myself an expert because there's so much there, but I can certainly work my way through it now and help others work their way through it. With a little digging, there's a lot of ACS data. It was amazing to me to see how much was out there. I always think about, the standard stuff that we talk about, population, disaggregated by age and gender and ethnicity and things like that. But there was a lot there. I was shocked, and I'm actually pretty excited at some of the stuff I found. I know that's a data geek talking, but that's how I felt about it. Learned a lot about Tableau. I've been using it for 6, 7 years now, and I've done a couple of maps in the past, but this was really kind of fun to work with, and then incorporating the Tableau prep to join all the files together. Learned a lot there as well. And I learned that I can actually do this. So it was kind of affirmation for me that I can make this work. So some of my next steps, I want to expand the data sets to include more metrics, both state data and ACS data. I want to combine the state data with the ACS data so the maps can be overlaid so that when you're looking at a certain district and you see that let's say your third grade literacy rates are really low, what does your poverty look like when it's layered on top of that? What does your ethnicity breakdown look like when it's layered on top of that? Things like that, so that you can see how those pieces start to fit together and start making some informed decisions, or coming up with some hypotheses about why things are the way they are, and what you can do to help with that. I want to improve the notes and instructions on the dashboard. I don't know if you noticed, but there's a lot of clicking that can happen, but I don't have on there yet good notes about what does what, and data sources and things like that. So over the next month or two, that's what I'm going to start working on, is building that information in so that it's a little more self-service and a little more easy to use. And then these are my resources. This is, and we'll send out this presentation after this, so you all have it along with the recording. But these are my data sources and where I got everything at. So people, if they wanted to, they could go look and get their own data if they wanted to. And that's it. I hope I didn't go too fast, but we have plenty of time for questions if anybody wants to ask away.
Hey, James, it's Susan. That was pretty amazing. Is it possible to put like a button where you would clear the form before? I saw you backing up a lot to try to get back to the original map. And I could just see how easy it would be in my eyes, it seems easy, but you just push a little button and you reset.
There is actually, it's not completely built into Tableau. I found a forum where somebody had done something like that, and there's some coding that has to be done in the background, and that will be something I add because, like I said, some of the clicking is a bit much. So. Any other questions? I'm gonna stop sharing. All right. Well, if there's no questions, I appreciate your time today. Thank you for joining us. And oh, Tanya's got her hand up.
I know, I have a request. Would it be possible to open a breakout room? I see some of my friends from MODOC here, and I'd love to come together and just bounce some ideas and play with the tool together.
Sure.
Cool.
I'm wondering if we could invite at a different session, maybe like the high school administrators. I just think they'd find this really fascinating.
Yeah, we could do something like that.
I don't have any confidence in walking them through it at this point, but I would love to be able to, like a little mini session like this, but just those who want to go for a deeper dive, maybe.
Well, and the counselors too. I think, the A through G rates and high school completion rates would be really helpful. I know that, James, the Tableau that you had already with our math scores, we used that last summer, and we could disaggregate the data, and we could see that the students that were meeting the standard or above, the largest group that was meeting that standard had parents who had some college or had completed college. And that was just like a you know, clicking through. This map makes it much easier
Right.
to see visually. So I'm excited about that. But I think being able to disaggregate the data as a team would be really helpful, like having a session to do that might be fun.
Okay. Yeah, we can set something up. I guess, and we can talk offline about some of this, and maybe at our next regional meeting, having a
Mhm.
discussion about, do we want to do it county by county? Do we want
Yeah.
to do it as a whole group? You know, trying to keep it manageable,
Right.
so that we don't, you know, I don't know how many districts will be jumping on board right away, and if it'll be unmanageable, but yeah, we could have that discussion for sure. I
Yeah,
love
I
people
could
to use the
see
work that I'm doing, so.
I could see tacking it into an like a existing superintendent's meeting or principal meeting. I'm sure all of our
Sure.
districts have those. So maybe that's the way to go.
Yeah, and if somebody would like to invite me to come to that space and do this, I'd be happy to. I can do that.
Thank you
And
very much.
I think we have a question from Shannon Eller,
Yeah.
and then I also thought maybe after that, I saw Del Nort come off mute, but maybe not. Go ahead,
Okay.
Shannon.
This is a great tool and thank you for sharing. I just had a specific question. I'm in Siskiyou County and I am under the US Census data. And so I chose percent households with one or more computer devices, and then Siskiyou County as a whole, and left district as all.
Mhm.
So, but when I do that, it doesn't show some of our districts, and I'm just wondering if maybe I plugged something in wrong, or
Yeah,
wondering.
so Siskiyou County and Modoc County both have some gaps when it comes to ACS data.
Okay.
I don't know why. I haven't delved into that yet, but I noticed it years ago, actually. I was looking for something, I forget what, it's been a few years now. And there was, in Modoc County in particular, there were huge gaps. And some of it, I think, my speculation, comes down to the reluctance in more conservative areas to be answering questions for the government and things like that. I know that sounds
Sure.
conspiracy theory like,
That
but
sounds right,
No,
James.
it's true. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
accurate information.
So you know, this year I did the last census. I noticed that Modoc got better on some of the things. I noticed that Siskiyou got better, and overall the whole census seemed to go better. I think people are starting to warm up to the idea that if you need things in your areas, you're going to have to start answering those questions, and hopefully we'll see that turn around. That being said, though, I did notice gaps and holes, and I want to make sure that the data truly doesn't exist before I just write it off and say, oh, it doesn't exist. So that's on my list of summer projects as well.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And just so you know, I'm from adult education.
Mhm.
So even though this data, some of this data doesn't pertain directly to adults, like maybe the CAASPP, I still get use out of it because we're always looking at like the family system as a whole. So I still think it's valuable for even adult education programs, as well as probably the community college too.
Good. I'm glad. And then Lisa.
Well, thank you, James. I just wanted to say this is amazing. I love it. I love the data. And is it okay for me to share it with my community of practice today?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I had worked previously with Measure of America and had a report done by our neighborhoods just on Del Norte and shared that at our economic summit this past month. And that is not near as comprehensive as what you have given us today. So I thank you so much.
You're most welcome. Thank you. And I see Chrissy Hess.
Hey James, I'm from Modoc. So I just want to say thank you because it's really difficult to find data when we're needing it. And one layer of data that I wasn't sure if you have come across is homeless rates. So I know that the way that schools define homelessness is very different than the way that the census defines homelessness. And so like if any of our students live in a trailer with 4 wheels, they're considered homeless, or if they're on somebody else's couch. And so I didn't know if you knew of any way to kind of collect that level of data for our kids as to that fit into that definition of homelessness.
So I have started working with the homeless data from the California Department of Ed. And as you said, it is quite different than what the US Census defines. I've started working with that. I am going to add that to this. I'm also going to add the US Census one. And again, when I said earlier, I want to try and start layering that data, I want to layer those two together so that you can start to see where the differences are and where the similarities are as well. But yeah, I've started working with that. It's on the list, and I'm hoping to get that out before fall. And Alana.
Yes, hi. I am also very excited about this. I love the comment somebody put about letting your inner data nerd out, because I definitely am appreciating that. My own inner data nerd is going crazy right now. I'm really excited to dig into this. A couple things I noticed when I was just poking around on it briefly is right now it looks like only the traditional districts are on the map, and I was wondering if it's possible to include data for charter schools. I don't know if that's in the data files you're pulling.
It is. I tried to include charter schools to start with. The problem with the way the state disseminates the data files to us is I started getting some duplication, because you've got charter schools that land within districts and some different things. So I started having some duplication, and I couldn't figure out how to fix that. So what I want to do is create a checkbox or a selection that you can select either district or either charter school, one of the two. And then you'll see that kind of filter out on the map. I tried to include them together, and that didn't work. And so I'm going to create that filter, I guess you call it. And so then you'll be able to see those.
Okay, and then the other question I had is if right now it looks like that CAASPP data is you can filter by grade level. You can look at different grade levels, but it looks like you can't look at multiple grade levels together. There is an all choice, but when I tried that, I was getting numbers like, 253% met or exceeded.
Yeah. Again, the way the data comes to me from the state is terrible. And I originally had it so you could select multiple grade levels, and I got the same thing that you got. I'm like, okay, yeah, it can't be 250%. So I'm trying to work through how to distinguish that, and to see if I can kind of parse the data a little differently than the way that they've given it to me. So that is also on the list. That one's going to be a little tougher though, because of the way the data is given to us. So
Great, thank you.
You bet. Anyone else? I don't see any other hands up. Is there anything in the chat, Jamie, that I missed?
I don't see anything in the chat. I would just say, if nobody else has any questions, maybe those, including MODOC, that want to stay on and go in breakout rooms with those that you see maybe in your county, feel free to do that. And then reach out to James if you have questions going forward, or want him to present, all of that good stuff. Ideas to layer and add, right, James? You'd always love to hear that.
Yeah, I like I said, I appreciate everybody being here. I'm not afraid to answer questions. I'm not afraid to participate in the meetings and things like that you need. I'm also not afraid of data. So if you're looking at it and you see something that's wrong or you think is wrong, let me know. We can work through it and figure it out. I'm a big proponent of let's put the data together, throw it out, and let people poke holes in it. I don't know everything there is to know about your regions. And so all I see is what I get in these data files. So if there's something wrong, we can work through that together and try and fix it. So appreciate your time today. Thank you, everyone. And we'll get we'll get some information of the recording out and the presentation out so you can have that. Thank you.
James.
Thanks, James.